We're going to talk today about the future of building. And as we mentioned, I'm Martin Woodward. If you want to get hold of me, it's martinwoodward@github.com or just @martinwoodward if you want to shout at me on social media. That'll be fantastic. When we look at the future of applications, we see really that, the future is getting more innovative than ever. This pace of acceleration just keeps continuing. And this has been really paved, this way has really been paved by all of our sort of modern engineering systems that we can do and helps us build these new kinds of software. So if we look at that future, we see that obviously we're building more and more applications that are now cloud native, and that allows us to do a lot more stuff. We see AI and machine learning and large language models and all this sort of thing creeping more into the intelligence of these applications. But importantly, we see that these applications, they're building on the work of others, whether it's eBPM, whether it's, Linux, whether it's different open source projects. All the work of people within our teams, we're always building value on top of the work of others in our organization. And most importantly, these new systems, all of them need to be incredibly customer focused to provide the experiences that our customers need and want, and that we iterate based on real live customer feedback. This is all possible with, modern engineering methods that we use in engineering practices. And obviously the best organizations and the most productive organizations in the industry today are using DevOps to more rapidly deliver value to our end users through this bringing together of, yes, technology, but more importantly of the people within our team, the processes that those people follow, and then the technology. Well, the technology is frankly the easy part. We get too obsessed by that. But when we look at the at DevOps itself, actually, DevOps as a term was created back in 2009. John Allspaw was talking about Flickr and how they were deploying 10 times a day. Patrick Dubois was talking about agile for infrastructure, and these concepts are all there. But things have moved on a lot. Back then, say a company like Microsoft, where I was working at the time, we were shipping, every 9 months at least, and probably every 2 or 3 years. Now they're actually deploying over 150 times a minute. And that is a huge shift. And you can only do that with the processes and culture as well as the tooling to support you. DevOps has evolved in the intervening years. It's evolved in a very DevOps way by iterating, by improving one step at a time, finding the thing that hurts the most and fixing it. We see that evolution has happened. GitHub, where I work now, actually, it only launched in 2008. So just before the term DevOps actually came into existence. And, by 2009, there were actually sort of 50,000 developers collaborating together. Now there's over 100 million developers across the whole world collaborating with each other across the world, building on the work of each other, sharing ideas with each other to be able to iterate and improve. And the cloud has really adjusted how we actually deliver infrastructure into our environments. We see that happening more and more. If we can go on to the next slide. We see the cloud brings easy access to infrastructure, and we see the clouds launching and then, providing all this ability to sort of get access to infrastructure quickly. And then that means you need to script access to infrastructure easily, which is where we bring in automation, which is removing this barriers of manual deployment, because once you've got the large scale, you need to automate a bunch of stuff. And that's what we see happening around about sort of 2010. Now, security has always been part of the software delivery cycle. Like, it's always been key. But around, the sort of mid 2010s, we start to see security really getting automated into the pipeline and putting these safety rails in place from not just a sort of testing point of view, but from a security point of view as well, so that when you're rapidly deploying, you have the safety rails in place. And 2012 is when the first sort of references of DevSecOps I could see came along. But we needed to do more with infrastructure as code to make sure that we weren't actually, to help us scale and to help us get bigger again, because that started to be the next pain point as we evolve DevOps and as we evolve our practices around DevOps. We also realized the vast importance of site reliability engineering and the ability to engineer ops to be able to make sure we have a whole discipline around keeping our infrastructure deployed, keeping our infrastructure working, but also the very, very important aspects of being able to do investigations into live site incidents and be able to do blameless retrospectives, blameless postmortems around incidents that happen, learn from them, and then engineer the learning from that back into our processes. And then as we move on, we see container orchestration has become bigger and bigger. It was hilarious it being referred to in the last talk as kind of legacy code, the stuff that isn't container orchestrated. There's still plenty of workloads we all have that are not containerized, but more and more workloads we do deploy today are getting more and more containerized. And the impact of the community around software development just keeps increasing. And we see that happening more and more with people, building CI/CD, things like GitHub Actions, being able to continuously deploy, and the community that we have around those. And then most recently, we're seeing that this new cloud compute that we have available to us is starting to democratize kind of machine learning and access to models by providing very, very large language models, for example, in the cloud, and APIs around them, improves the developer experience of people using these systems and allows people to get started to use them and then to leverage the power of these large language models to solve their own, people's own problems. So together, we're really kind of reimagining what software development looks like. But when we look to the future, we can see from the rate of acceleration that we're going to have greater change in the past 5 years than we've had in the past 40. It feels like we're hitting a real inflection point here in our community, in the development world. One I probably haven't seen, since the dawn of the internet back in the 2000s when we started working on that. And listening to Bill Gates speaking yesterday, actually saying that, some of the changes we're seeing right now is the biggest kind of shift we've seen since the introduction of the graphical user interface. So that's how we see this fundamental transformation period we're hitting now. And to unlock this period, we really need to focus on the developer experience of our teams, make sure that they're happy. Now, by this, I don't mean that you can just, go ignore all your customers. You can't suddenly, ignore the ops teams, stop documenting your code. Sorry, no. I'm afraid you still have a job to do. But when was the last time in your organization you actually asked your teams, your engineering teams, what's slowing them down in delivering value to customers? Are you focusing on the experience of the teams who are trying to deploy and push changes into production with the appropriate guardrails? We all love to ship safely, provided there's a safety net, provided we have our psychological safety, but also we know we can make these changes and not break the systems that we're deploying. every study that is out shows a positive correlation between how satisfied engineering teams are and how often they can ship, for example. There's a direct correlation between that. We want help staying in this flow state that we all talk about as developers and as engineers, where we can, build, test, we can deploy, we can measure what's happening in production and learn, and then iterate on that. When you get into that flow state, there's nothing like it. And we are able to achieve, massive levels of productivity when we're there, and things that take us out of that flow state, that introduce friction, that introduce doubt and reduce our ability to experiment, are the things that slow us down and the things that make us unhappy. We all want to be able to get coding straight away when we're coding. And we don't want to spend hours kind of setting up our environment, testing computers, things like that. We actually had a big push here at GitHub. We started off and you were trying to get sort of working on the GitHub code base itself. And we found that it actually took us 45 minutes it took us 45 minutes to build our software engineering environments. And we wanted to get that to 1 minute to build our software engineering environment. This was already a highly automated process. I've been in organizations where it's taken, maybe 45 days to get set up with a development environment. Definitely the first week would be set up getting your machine working. And it's not just getting your machine working, is it? It's all the time you waste when you're actually trying to keep your machine up to date as well. When an update comes in and messes up a dependency that happens in production and blah, blah, blah. And then before you know it, things are broken. These development environments can be quite fragile. So we wanted to reduce it so we could spin up a brand new multi-core development machine in less than a minute. And that was kind of our goal. So as a software developer here, you still get a laptop, but that whole environment that you code in is now in the cloud. And it doesn't take us 1 minute. It actually takes us around about 15 seconds to stand up an entire development environment with your entire dev instance of GitHub running, that you can then use to go code your change with the very latest source code there. It takes me on my machine. I've got a ridiculously fast fiber connection here in my field here in Northern Ireland. It takes me 45 minutes to just locally on my machine. But by using the same cloud infrastructure that we've been deploying all of our customers to over these past years, as developers, by taking advantage of that ourselves, we're really able to help improve the developer's experience, the ability as an engineer to be able to get software running, make your change, test it, deploy it through the various safety checks, and then push out into production. With the cloud, we're getting instant access to our projects whenever we need them. If we want to hydrate a project out, we can go do that. And in fact, we took this kind of logic, this kind of cloud development environment that we had, and we packaged it up there's a product you can get now from GitHub called Code Spaces, which is the same thing. It's the same thing that we use now internally, where you take this entire development environment, put it into a container, into a dev container, and then that runs in an isolated virtual machine out in the cloud. But all the advantages of containerization that we see when we deploy our customer workloads, we also see with our own development workloads. So this ability to scale machines, the ability to get rapid access to hardware, but also the ability to switch machines off and to be able to, turn a container off basically when you're not using it as a developer, means that you only use the machines for the minutes you're actually coding. And I hate to break it to you, but the number of minutes you actually code in a day is a lot less than you think it is. Usually about 6 at most for a very, very kind of active developer who's really able to focus on their code. But this notion of code spaces and containerized development environments that we're seeing increase, it goes much more beyond just onboarding. This cloud gives the developers near infinite compute power. You can have as many environments as you want. So rather than just, you can have an environment per pull request. You can have an environment that you can instantly stand up for that legacy piece of code that you need to maintain, but you don't often work on. Usually you would build up debt in that legacy code until it gets to the point where it makes sense to be able to spin up a dev environment, make all the changes, and then fix these things, pay that debt back down, and then put that thing back into hydration, into storage, sorry. But as we learned from DevOps, the longer you build up your batches, the harder things are, and the harder it is to progress. By using containerized development environments, you very rapidly can spin that legacy code back up, fix something, and then put it back into storage, which means you build up less debt, which means that overall you spend a lot less time maintaining those kind of more legacy systems, as well as spending a lot less time in your, the active branches, the active things that you're coding. Of course, the development environment's updated every night with local dependencies with CI/CD. It can be updated all the time, and it's always got the most up-to-date code running on it. And we see that the second promise that we see is around this promise from open source. That free access, the free as in speech, not free as in beer. So everybody in the organization, well, in open source is everybody in the world, but also internally, it can be everybody in the organization having the ability to create, fork, and modify. That's what's made open source special, and given, the ability to unblock people and allow people to move at the speed that they want to move, we can apply that same thing inside the organization. But also, we can take things like code spaces and we actually give it away for free to our open source community, up to 60 hours a month, where they can do all that stuff and have a development environment that allows them to contribute to open source as well. Because what we need to do is kind of democratize access to these future cloud environments. These types of cloud environments have actually been around for a little while in some of the larger tech companies, but we need to make them available to everybody. So that way, if you're, a kid, a student on a tablet or a Chromebook or whatever, and you want to learn coding, but all you've got is kind of like an entry-level machine, as long as you have an internet connection, a screen, probably a keyboard, or the input device of your choice, the cloud makes it possible for you to compete at the very same level as the best technology companies on the planet using the power of the cloud. And we think the shift to the cloud, we see it happening at a much more rapid rate, than we've seen in the past. In fact, the way we're looking right now, in just a few years, we're seeing that there'll probably no code on your local computer. The advantages of cloud-based development environments are so high that, it's easier to set those environments up there and have more production-like environments in which to deploy. And there's so many benefits to a lot of our customers as well, especially, customers in secure environments. All of our coding will be done in the cloud on many development environments that you can all control from your local machine and that you can access. And that's completely different from where we are. And as developers, we've done great at moving our customers to the cloud, but it's our time to go to the cloud. It's time for this change. We've been, good stewards of this cloud migration, but we're seeing the cloud promises to bring us massive advantages as developers. And one of the areas that we're definitely seeing rapid improvements right now is great advances in running AI models, which help us build faster. AI has always been this thing in the future for my entire career. It's always, AI is kind of what you call machine learning and data science and large language models when it's not working, and it's in the future. But AI is today. AI is here right now. And we already have AI acting as a co-pilot in our lives. If you look, you're taking photos, Google Photos or Apple Photos is creating automatic photo albums, is allowing us to search for our loved ones within, by doing sort of computer imaging and being able to recognize that computer vision. Things like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, Google Docs, it's helping people write their term papers. It's helping people write letters and reports. Our cars are keeping us safer by using machine learning, again, a lot of computer vision, but a lot of behavioral and intent analysis to be able to make us more efficient and to be able to keep us safer. They're almost driving themselves, but they're not quite, It's definitely around keeping us safer and allowing the people to be in control, allowing them to set the direction, but then keeping people safe, keeping people more, being more alert, that sort of thing. And AI is becoming kind of this natural extension now to the way that we work and the way that we do everything. But until now, AI really hasn't been influencing the process of code creation. The process of writing code, deploying code, measuring code has kind of been very manual. But we're done waiting as developers. We already see, this next generation of AI pair programmers here in the market. Copilot from GitHub is obviously leading the pack there as an AI pair programmer that can come in and make changes and suggest changes in your code that you then decide if you want to accept them and adopt them. But it's not super smart. It's looking at intent, looking at what the developer wants to do, and then predicting that, and then making them more efficient by predicting where they're going and where they want to be. We already start to see that around about 40% of the code that people who are using Copilot, around 40% of that code is actually being predicted by the ML model and being accepted by them. And we kind of see that as the beginning, really. We're in the very early stages of these models and this technology that we have. Where we're thinking that we'll be is in 5 years' time, pretty sure that number is going to get closer towards 80% of the actual code that we deploy will be written with the assistance of AI models. And that means that, we need that to happen if we're going to keep up with the rapid pace of innovation that we're seeing in our industry. But questions I'm predicting, we're going to come up with is, oh no, does this mean AI is going to take over my job? Anyone who's used these tools for real knows the answer is no. AI will not replace developers. The model behind these things, whether it's GPT-3 or GPT-4 has been recently announced, it's not intelligent. Computers are not creative. All these large language models are doing is kind of predicting the next word or next method based on the context it can find in the work that you're in and on the work that you as the creator has already typed. It needs you to do the code. It needs you to provide your intent before it can help you go on your journey quicker. And as developers, we've been through these transitions already. We've gone from kind of punch carding, assembly language. No, not even assembly language. We've gone punch carding machine instructions to assembly language, to higher level language models, And also how open source, really changed how we built things. AI is kind of just the next step of this, and Copilot is the next step. Instead of writing all the code myself, instead of relying on more and more terse kind of syntactic sugar in our programming languages, we can leverage the interface between us and the AI pair programmer to create the things that we want to create. Just like some of the activities I listed earlier, we build it as an extension to your tool set to help you be more creative and to stay in that flow more. Because AI makes the possibilities greater. AI will not only accelerate what we can achieve, but it opens the doors for others to build software as well, to help people learn. AI makes coding more accessible, not just to somebody, who's temporarily, physically, has all access to my mobility, has access to full vision. AI helps coding more accessible to people with movement impairments, to people with vision impairments, to giving people with disabilities the ability to write code easier and to unlock all the creativity that they have that they're just not able to express because of the blockers that we put in their way as engineers right now. We need to get rid of those, and AI can definitely help. AI also helps students learn faster and on-ramp quicker. I know from my own experience, when I'm in an unfamiliar language, having that AI assistant there with me just helps me. Like, how do I do a while loop again? I forget in this language. What's variable visibility like in Python? I can't remember. When you're switching languages all the time, having these AI assistants really helps you do that and be ridiculously productive. It just helps you solve the problems. And remember that this AI is only possible because of the cloud. These very large language models we're seeing now, they run on thousands of GPUs. And, while the GPU in your machine is getting faster and is great at heating the office you're probably in right now, these large language models are growing even faster. And it's only possible because of the power of the cloud and the scalability that the cloud gives us to be able to actually make all this AI possible and to make us more productive. For the last 40 years, through every innovation, through every transformation we've been through, we as developers, we've become more productive. Our velocity has just skyrocketed compared to, when I started in this industry on the mainframe. But also when I'm not at work, when I'm on call, when the servers go down, we're also keeping the lights on for organizations around the world, and we need assistance there to help us do that. It's become increasingly unclear for many people, especially, somebody like me who's been living in their cupboard for the past sort of 20 years. There's what is work and what is life can get quite blurred sometimes. Because of this, sometimes, life can take a back seat. But that's not right. As developers, we must build the technology that's going to make the people on our teams, the people within our organizations, and the people in the world more productive. That's what we need to do as developers. And I don't want things to get in the way. I don't want people who are on call to get, people not to feel that there's split between work and life. We need to build systems and safeguards and technology that allows them to have, sustainable careers in technology, but also ones that can cope with this rapid levels of advancement. So we shouldn't be just we shouldn't just be advancing technology for technology's sake. We shouldn't be creating technology and then looking for problems that solve it. We should be building technology that focuses on the developer's experiences and improve the developer's experience in building, shipping, deploying software in a safe, secure way to our organization for the sake just for happiness, if not anything else, for developer happiness. The world will win if we have happy developers. Sorry, still have to write your documentation. But don't let this critical responsibility that we all have, don't let it scare you. For me, this is what gets me out of bed every single day, because I see the future all around me right now. I see it in the work that people do. I see it in the technologies that we have. We can get them, take the lessons that the best people have learned, make them available to everybody in the world, but also make them available to everybody back in your office at home. So this week and today, as you're at the conference, think about what you can learn and what you can take back to the lives of your team this week or next week. Just take it back a little bit. What small thing can you improve in your organization tomorrow that will make you a bit better? Then what can you improve next week that will make you a bit more efficient at shipping and that will allow you to get into production quickly? Remember, you don't need to ask permission to do this, okay? It's your job to keep improving and to keep improving the development systems of your organization. By continuously improving your software development process, you get better as an individual, but you get better as an organization, and it allows you to do DevOps at scale. So what small thing can you take away? That one small change, just keep dropping them in the bucket, and they accelerate over time. And we're just at this beginning of a golden era for developers, really. So that's kind of like what's happening, where we've been, where we're going. If you'd like to learn more and actually dig into some of the specifics and maybe even have a demonstration, a session of some of the future, one of my colleagues, Peter, is going to be doing a session in just under an hour on secure coding with GitHub and Copilot. So be sure to check that out. And then if you also want as well, there's a ton of GitHub folks hanging out in the expo area. So please come along, hang out there and answer any questions that you've got. Or, we can try and help answer any questions there as well. Okay. I wanted to make sure we left plenty of time for Q&A, because I know Q&A is a big thing at this conference, and I'm hoping we've got lots of things to talk about. So I just wanted to say thank you. By building things together, we're creating new ways to deliver innovation to our customers. And by learning at conferences like we're doing today, we're helping people get better, and then we're taking that away and we're learning and we're changing the world. So thank you, everybody here. Thank you for helping change the world, even if it's one pull request at a time. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Whew. Martin. Wow. Oh my gosh, that was just super inspiring, and I'm so happy that we've had you here. We've got a bunch of questions and a bunch of comments.
We do, and actually I would like to start with a question that was from Robin. Robin here. I've always seen a benefit to be able to develop offline, for example, on a plane. Should we still strive to enable this type of development in our applications? What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because I've written some fantastic stuff when I can have focus. And in many ways, that's what offline gave us, was the ability to focus. And so for me, it's about making sure we give people the same level of focus, even when there's the distractions of online around them, that they can have when they trap themselves in a room or a coffee shop or whatever. There is definitely, as we move to more cloud-focused environments, and also as we move to sort of these always-on services like AI-type services, I've actually noticed that I miss them when I'm disconnected. It's very rare, even on a plane nowadays, let's be honest, that you actually are disconnected. But I miss them. And so I'm finding that's no longer my most productive time. An example, the other day I was writing some bash code, it's, what is it, 2023, and here I am writing more bash. But anyway, I was writing some bash code, actually fun enough to deploy some code to some like IoT device or whatever. But
your secret is safe with us.
Yeah, exactly. But because I had kind of, I would have probably, if I'd been on a plane, fallen back to a language I knew better, say Python or Java or C# or something like that, because I could do it from memory, without having to look up the documentation, without having to, lean on an AI assistant to help me. But I was in a more unfamiliar language to me for doing some of this type of stuff, and I just like typed a comment of iterate over this file one line at a time, and boom, the AI assistant created a for loop for me that actually could do that. And I was like, oh, cool, I can do this in bash. Okay. And then before I knew it, I had this whole kind of probably slightly horrific script that works, that did what I needed it to do, but it was a one-off job of something that I was only doing once, which was deploying to 200 devices, believe it or not. But I only needed to do that one change once. I didn't need it to be, it wasn't like production code that was going to live forever. And so it helped me. So I think from the answer to the question from Rob is really, what can we do? Was it Robin or Rob? Sorry. What can we do to achieve what can we do to keep people in focus? And so that same focus you felt when you're on a plane but didn't have access to all the resources that can make you more productive, how can we give you that same level of focus for 8 hours, every day, every time you're at the office?
Great.
Super relevant answer. Everything we talk about, cognitive load and platform engineering, these types of things. There's something interesting that I noticed where I met the first cloud native. Like, we talk about digital natives, like guys that are about our age may have had a computer when we were of single digit age, but we weren't maybe internet natives. And then there's millennials. But like, I came up with this idea. I was thinking how you are distributing digital accessibility across the world. Like, I'm writing marketing for you now, I think. But there's something really powerful here about you making all the developer tools more accessible for developing countries. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that and see if you wanted to as well, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we, in kind of some of the countries we're coming from here, it's very easy to take for granted that you can just go buy a shiny M2 MacBook or a fancy Surface Book or something and go do some coding. Oh, I want to do some machine learning. Cool. I will buy a machine with a GPU in it that, that allows me to do some of those ML things. If you are a developer in Nairobi, you not only is that exact same machine significantly more expensive in your country. Like, it's not that it's less affordable to you. It's 10 times as expensive often, definitely 3 times as expensive. But also, if you take that same machine and walk down the street with it, and you stand a higher risk than probably I do of having that machine taken from you as part of that journey. And that's the fact that a lot of people live within this world. And then also getting access to this, it's really hard. All these people, they're not like less smart than me. They just have access to less technology than me. I was having a chat with a developer. Again, it's all about obstacles we put in place and gatekeeping that we do as engineers, and that we assume people have access to stuff. So being access to developing countries is great. Obviously, you still need internet connectivity, and that's far from ubiquitous everywhere, especially high-speed internet access, But it definitely is easier to get that than get hold of the fanciest, greatest machines. But also, from an accessibility point of view, I was actually talking to a developer called Becky, who is now a computer science student at the University of Dundee recently. And she, she can't speak She has mobility impairments. All she has access to is she's amazing at eye control, like unbelievably good at eye control. And so she works, and she's a developer. She's doing computer science right now, and uses kind of a modified version of OptiKey, which is an eye tracking software that allows her to do some coding. But also she works with an amazing developer called Kirsty, who they pair together and they build Minecraft mods, which help Becky play Minecraft.
Nice.
And compete with all her friends just using eye control. So by removing barriers, we're able to unlock a lot more people, which then helps us build this next generation of engineers. And you see that with these cloud native folks. That's kind of what I see all the time. And the more people we can unblock, the better, the faster our progress can be.
Awesome. I had another one. I just wanted to give a comment. So when I was on my way to work this morning and I picked up my device, and the first post on LinkedIn was an old colleague of mine, and he said using GitHub Copilot gave him the same excitement as using Netscape for the first time. So I really love the level of innovation that we're talking about in this conference today and that you've kind of brought here.
Just on that as well, quickly, one of the things, like I always worry because AI's obviously got a lot of hype around it right now, and you always worry about that sort of thing. Peter's session later on that actually shows you how it works. The main takeaway for me is the people that use it, like, won't let you take it away from them, like they won't let you pry it away from their cold dead hands kind of thing. So that to me tells me that it's a technology that's really improving what they do. But the reason it does is because it's focusing on improving their experience as a developer, helping them keep in that flow state, helping them work more efficiently. It's not because it's a cool language model that can, auto-complete things and write poems. That doesn't make you more productive. It's actually constraining that model to focus it on software development. That is what makes you more productive, which is interesting. But yeah, definitely there's a lot of hype right now, but it has a lot of benefits for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great.
I think we're about out of time for you, Martin. We're actually perfectly right on time.
Exactly.
Thank you once again, Martin Woodward. That was hugely inspiring, and I believe our audience enjoyed it thoroughly as well. So yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Hi, we're from Epicode, the proud organizer of the DevOps conference.
Our goal is to uncover cutting-edge talks, emerging ideas, and DevOps trends, providing a global forum for practitioners and decision-makers to learn and grow.
We would love to also explore how we can help you excel in DevOps together. Visit us at epicode.com and enjoy the inspiring talks at the DevOps conference.